When we think about our global food system, there's this massive gap between a scientific discovery in a lab and a farmer's actual field. So today, we're going to talk about the absolutely essential bridge that closes that gap, the story of agricultural extension.
Seriously, think about that for a second. Some brilliant scientist develops a new drought-resistant seed. That's amazing, right? But how does that seed, and more importantly, the knowledge of how to grow it, get into the hands of a small farmer thousands of miles away? It's a huge journey that needs a very special kind of connection.
And to really get a handle on the scale of this challenge, just look at this number, 1.43 billion. That's the population of India alone. We're talking about hundreds of millions of people who rely directly on farming. Feeding a nation that big? Well, it all comes down to getting the right information to the right people at the right time. And that's where agricultural extension comes in. This is the bridge we're talking about. It's the whole system, the people, the strategies, the communication that's built to get knowledge from the lab to the land. And, just as important, to bring the real-world experiences of farmers back to the scientists.
Okay, so where did this whole idea come from? A formal public system dedicated to educating farmers. Well, the story starts with a pretty revolutionary idea about what a university should be doing for the public.
The blueprint for what we know today really started in the United States with three key laws. First, the Morrill Act in 1862 created these new colleges focused on practical stuff like agriculture. Then, the Hatch Act gave them a research mission. But the real game changer was the Smith-Lever Act in 1914. That was the piece that said, okay, now you have to go out and share all this research with everyone.
And what this created was this amazing, self-reinforcing loop. You've got research creating new knowledge, teaching to train the next generation, and then extension to make sure all that knowledge actually gets out into the world and makes a difference. This three-part mission became the model that was copied all over the globe.
So, as this model started to spread around the world, it had to change. It wasn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Different countries came up with their own unique ways of getting information to farmers.
And this led to two very different philosophies. On one side, you had the training and visit system. Think of it as a top-down, almost military-style approach. It was highly structured, very organized. On the complete other end of the spectrum, you had the farmer field school model. This was bottom-up, all about hands-on learning and empowering farmers to become their own experts.
I love this quote. The Farmer Field School was called a school without borders. It just nails the concept, right? The classroom isn't a room, it's the field itself. It's where farmers can experiment, see what works, and learn from each other. It's all about learning by doing.
But as the world got more complex, with new challenges like globalization and climate change, it became really clear that a single public system just couldn't keep up. No matter which model they used, the old way of doing things was stretched to its breaking point.
The reality was, these public systems were often struggling. They were short on funding, short on staff, and they weren't always coordinated. They were mostly supply-driven, meaning they pushed information out, but they weren't always great at responding to what farmers actually needed on the ground.
So the solution was a new idea, pluralism. The thinking was, instead of having just one official source of information, why not create a whole ecosystem of providers? You'd still have the government, but you'd also have private companies, nonprofits, and farmer-led groups all chipping in with their own expertise.
And if you look at India, you can see this new ecosystem in action. Today, a farmer might get advice from a government science center, but also from the company that sold them their seeds, or a local NGO, or even their own farming cooperative. It's become a true network of knowledge.
But look, this new pluralistic system isn't a magic bullet. On the one hand, it gives farmers way more choices and is much more responsive to what they actually need. But on the other hand, when you have so many different players, things can get messy. You can have a lack of coordination, conflicting advice. It's a really complex balancing act.
And the story doesn't end there. Right now, extension is evolving again, this time to face the biggest challenge of our time, climate change. The focus isn't just about growing more food anymore. It's about building systems that are resilient and sustainable.
This has led to this really important new idea called climate-smart agriculture. The goal here is huge. It's not just about tweaking farming practices, it's about transforming the entire agricultural system to tackle food security and climate change at the same time.
And these are its three pillars. First, you have to sustainably boost productivity and income. Second, you need to help farmers adapt to the climate impacts that are already happening. And third, you have to reduce agriculture's own environmental footprint.
When you get it right, it's a triple win. Better livelihoods, more resilience, and a healthier planet.
Of course, technology is a huge piece of this puzzle now, but it's not as simple as just building an app. Digital platforms can reach tons of people in real time, but what if they don't have internet? In-person workshops are amazing for hands-on learning, but they're slow and can't reach everyone. The real key is using the right combination of tools for the job.
All of this brings us to what might be the biggest shift of all, and how we think about agricultural extension. It's a fundamental move away from a one-way street of information towards a true partnership.
This quote just says it all. The goal isn't just to be a knowledge provider anymore, to just tell farmers what to do. The new goal is to be an active facilitator, to help farmers connect with each other, find resources, and ultimately to empower them to be the innovators themselves.
So that leaves us with this final, massive question. We've got the science. We've got technology that can connect nearly every corner of the planet. So what's left? What is the final barrier we have to break through to truly empower every single farmer on Earth? Answering that is going to define the future of food for all of us.